Okay, well, let's look at one last issue. This is, I know it's complicated, but if you had to sort of summarize, what kind of Sharia issues would arise with regard to the accounting of intangible assets?
Okay. Maybe I can just go straight to the 8 themes so that we can zoom to the different views that we got and how we could reconcile it. Because it's quite this is in table 14. Table 14 on page 28. There are about 8 themes. We had to, first of all, deal on what are the rights. That has got to be clearly specified in the case of intangible assets. From the economic perspective, what is important is to identify and separate, measure the economic benefits and the value it gives to the. But the interesting thing, the convergence is the transferability. If it could be transferable, then you know that you are confident that these benefits really exist. Now, this is very well captured by Sharia because the complete ownership goes back to the right to dispose. Right? Yeah, with the right to dispose, then the ownership can be seen to complete. I mean, that is also the test for zakat and other requirements. So that's where when someone asks, is intangible asset zakatable, then goes back to that completeness of right and the benefits that accrue to it. The other issue about whether is it physical or non-physical, and of course intangible is non-physical, and we had a discussion about money. Since again recognition, identification, separability and transferability can be identified, we have the same view from the Sharia, except that the discussion on gold and other precious metals were also mentioned. The third is about possession and ownership. In accounting, more relates to possession and control of the benefits that accrue. In Sharia, it is more again going back to the contractual rights. All right. Now, the closer we're going to get will be the contractual rights of exchange. It could be lease, it could be sale. But the contractual rights of ownership can be quite challenging because at which stage of the development, as I mentioned to you, of this intangible, do we specify that contractual right of ownership? This is a pretty tricky thing. But as far as accounting is concerned, again, as long as you can recognize it, it will be captured. The other two that will always be together is whether is it separable, transferable, measurable. All right. These are some of the technical terms that we discuss. More from the entity perspective. Okay. Now, one thing that I need to highlight here, in accounting, reporting is of the entity, not the transactions.
Reporting of the entity.
Of the entity, not the transactions. Sharia tend to be more of the transactions rather than the entity. So you will see a slightly different emphasis in terms of the reporting requirements. As we know in Bank Negara, policy documents on Sharia contracts, right? So the contractual requirements need to be disclosed. Yeah. So the same thing with the intangible assets. What are the underlying contractual requirements? Now this is highlighted in the report with reference to Sharia compliant activities relating to the asset or Sharia compliant benefits relating to the asset, as well as the Sharia contract requirements to recognize this asset, whether in the form of trade or in the form of equity or debt ownership.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
So I think we've at least given the viewers a
picture,
bit of an overview,
Okay.
and they can hopefully
You can have a look at the article, and I sincerely hope that this is actually a beginning, and I hope we could get feedback, and from there we could explore further research. I think one part that we were not able to gather more data is on financial assets from banking institutions, as well as from financial instruments like sukuk. That could probably be the next stage of the research, to see to what extent intangible assets affect the value of Islamic financial assets and instruments.
Jazakallah khair,
Thank
and
you.
hope to see you again.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you very much for the interview.
Don't forget to keep watching. We'll have more installments from this series, Inside Islamic Finance, posted from time to time on the iFikr website.